Hello. Hi, David Steinberg here, also known as Dave. I'm going to be continuing my series about screenwriting and movies and whatever. I'm working hard today. I am sitting in my office. I worked on a script this morning, and so I'm taking a little break to give you some info about the movie business and about screenwriting in general. So let me just first start and say a little story. I've been doing this for about 15 years, and I've probably read close to 200 scripts from people who have gotten the script to me somehow. I'm not going to say exactly how, because then you'll do the same thing. But at some point, let me back up. There's this guy a couple years ago who wrote this article like, "No, I don't want to read your fucking script," or something like that. I don't remember the exact title, but it was like a whole essay on why he doesn't want to read your script. And he was kind of came off as like a big dick. And the truth of the matter is that people who work in the business will actually read your material if you get to them the right way. If you're just some sort of stalker and leave it on their doorstep, then no, they're not going to read their script. And as screenwriters, we're constantly telling people like, no, we can't read your script because you're going to sue us. It's a legal issue. Sorry, can't read scripts. I know a lot of people have a firm policy against doing that. But that's mostly just to keep away the crazy people. And the truth of the matter is, if there's some personal connection, you can get your script to a professional writer or a producer or someone who's in the business, and they will ultimately read your script. I'll give you an example. I got a call a couple of years ago from a guy who said, "My mom and your mom are good friends back east." And I was like, all right. And, I checked with my mom, like, do you really know this lady? She did. It really was one of my mom's friends' kids. And sure, I read a script. So the point of the story is that it's not that hard to get someone in the business to read your script if you're not in the business. If you're not in LA, not in New York, you're just in the middle of nowhere, and someone knows someone, you can get that to them if you're kind of normal and you don't seem like a stalker and you don't seem like you're going to sue them and you use a personal relationship, they will read it. But the point of the story is that, so I've probably read over 200 scripts in the 15 years that I've been doing this. And guess how many of those scripts I have thought were really good, and I wanted to call my agent or call my manager and say, you need to read this script because this person, they're onto something. This could be, a great writer. You could sell this thing. Well, of course, the answer is zero. I've never read a script that was good. And you're probably saying, okay, well, that's impossible. Something has to have been good somewhere. The truth of the matter is that no. I've never read a great script where I said, look, I want to get in on the ground floor on this thing. Because the weird thing is that it's not just like you're doing that person a favor, like reading their script. It's 100% a favor when the script's terrible. Then if you're asking me to read your script and your script's terrible, then yes, I'm doing you a favor. But hey Lisa, good to see you. If that script was actually great, then it's almost like you're doing me a favor, because the way the business works is all relationships and it's all people helping each other out. I know that sounds crazy and utopian, but it's actually true. If I read a script from some unknown writer that was awesome, I would call up my agent and be like, you got to read this guy's script. They would read it. They would sign that person, go sell that script, and then they would owe me a favor. Or, they think, okay, they're already my agent. Why do they need to owe me a favor? Trust me, everyone wants to owe someone a favor in this business. And if you referred a brand new writer that wrote a great script to someone, producer, agent, whoever, they would really appreciate it. They would think that was awesome. And when you read that script and it's actually good, your wheels start turning and you say to yourself, how can I benefit from this? Maybe you're even like, ooh, I want to produce this. I'm going to attach myself. I want to get in on the ground floor. And you start thinking how can this help you? So it's actually when you read a great script, you start thinking that they can help you instead of the opposite. It's when you read anything else but other than a great script, then you start thinking that you're doing them 100% of the favor. So, okay, why are all these scripts terrible? And it's not that you need to be in LA and go get an MFA in order to be able to write. That's not the problem. I would say the biggest problem when I read these scripts is that they're just boring. Now you say, okay, well, how could 200 scripts all be boring? They can. 200 scripts can all be boring. And here's why. You ever go to a party and there's some guy who's telling a story, some woman, could be anyone, and they're telling a story and they're riveting and you're like, oh my God, where's the story going? And they're a great storyteller. Being a great storyteller isn't about having really awesome dialogue or filling in subtle details. The big picture about telling someone a good story is not being boring, is having the story move forward quickly to unexpected and interesting areas. In other words, the key to a good story is plot. Yes, you want to have great characters in your screenplay. Yes, you want to have snappy dialogue and have it be funny or scary or whatever you're trying to do. That's all awesome. But where almost 100% of these scripts fall down is that the scripts don't have good plotting. And that comes down to the outline stage. When you're writing the outline, there's not enough interesting plot. The number one note I give people when I read these scripts is that your entire second act and first act together could be condensed down to the first act. If you take what you think is the entire movie and you make that half the movie or a third of the movie or the setup, hey, Alistair, good to see you. Hey, Lee. When you condense that down, all of a sudden you're forcing yourself to tell more story. You should be shoving story into that script, shoving story into there. So many things happen that it's interesting and that the plot keeps taking different directions. Hey, Lee, good to see you. And I think that's the biggest mistake. Yes, there's a million other mistakes. Boring characters, stilted dialogue, blah, blah, blah. You can fail a million different ways. But where I think people make the biggest mistake is they just don't have an interesting plot that goes from A to B to C all the way to Z in surprising and unusual ways. And because the plot's not interesting, and plus because it's not taking you different directions, nothing else matters. Yeah, you can have a fascinating character, but if that character is sitting in his apartment waiting for the doorbell to ring because the girl next door he's hoping is going to borrow some sugar, it's just not interesting. You have to get your characters out there, and that's why when you're creating characters, it's very difficult to create characters that are passive because they sit around and they don't do anything. You want active characters that are forcing, when there's a group of people in a scene and they're sitting around saying, oh no, what are we going to do now? Because the zombies are attacking and we're stuck in a room. We should probably just wait out the storm and stay here because that's the safest thing to do. You don't want those characters. You want the characters like, no, waiting here is the wrong thing. We've got to move forward. We've got to race through the zombies. We've got to get to the exit. I'm not going to sit around waiting. I'm a man of action. I'm a woman of action, whatever. You want proactive characters that are out there doing stuff because of the plot, not because they're inherently more interesting characters, but because those characters drive interesting plots. I'll give you an example. Whenever you see like a time travel episode of Star Trek, Next Generation, and they're always like, it's like you just imagine the studio note. Someone says, why don't they just like stay there and not do it? Like, because if they just stayed put, then whatever recurring loop or whatever time paradox that's happening would just stop happening. And then another character always says, yes, but maybe not doing anything is what caused the whole problem in the first place, which always seemed like a really bullshit thing to say, like, because clearly doing nothing was not the problem, because then if they just kept doing nothing, eventually they would have done so. Anyways, the point is that doing nothing is never causing the time paradox. But anyways, they have to say that because doing nothing is not exciting to watch. And if you're caught in a temporal time loop and the solution is to do nothing, then there's no episode. So studio note is, hey, let's have them do something because it's more exciting. So some character says, yes, but doing nothing is what got us into this mess in the first place, probably, so we have to go do something. Anyways, the point is, you want your characters out doing something because it has to be filled with plot. And when I read these scripts from new writers who are trying to break in, there might be 3 plot beats in the entire movie. I think there should be 3 major plot beats in the first act. There should be 6 major plot beats in the second act. There should be 3 more in the third act. I don't know these numbers I'm making up off the top of my head. The point is, whatever you think the correct number of plot beats is for the screenplay that you're trying to tell, triple it. And then write that screenplay and then send it back to me, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot better. So that's all I got for today. Thanks for all your wonderful questions. There were none, so by definition, they were wonderful. I will talk to you guys next time.